You might think that winning Game of the Year is the most prestigious award that you can get in the gaming industry. Well, that's simply not true. The most prestigious award that you can get is being ranked by myself as a Hall of Fame video game. And then after that, we have the legendary tier, solid GOTY, good game, why, as in why did this game win Game of the Year? And then I haven't played it. So starting off is the 2014 Game of the Year, Dragon Age Inquisition. And right off the bat, we're starting with why did this game win Game of the Year? Now, don't get me wrong, Dragon Age Inquisition is not a bad game by any means. It is a pretty decent game, but if we're talking about Game of the Year winners, why is this even on this list? And for those of you who aren't gamers, who mostly watch my channel because I usually yap about movies, let me explain Dragon Age Inquisition in movie terms. If games like The Witcher 3 and Baldur's Gate 3 and Elden Ring, I would compare those to something like Lord of the Rings, whereas Dragon Age Inquisition is the Chronicles of Narnia. And again, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, no disrespect to Chronicles of Narnia. That movie kind of slapped when I was a little kid. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, it was all right. It was a pretty good movie, but it doesn't come close to Lord of the Rings. So if we're talking about medieval fantasy RPGs, that's kind of where Dragon Age Inquisition sits. Solid game for sure, but I mean, there's just so many better medieval fantasy RPGs that you could be playing. So, I mean, I can't put Dragon Age Inquisition any higher than the Y tier. Now, here's the thing. Dragon Age Inquisition, it's like a 40-hour game. It takes a very long time to beat it, but really only about 10 hours of the game is actually fun. The rest of the game is complete filler content, basically like an MMO, except without the multiplayer aspect. So imagine all the tedious fetch quests that you've played in every MMO game, but now you can't even do it with your buddies. You're just doing it by yourself. You're going all the way across the map, spending 10 minutes slow walking across the map because you can't even run in this game. And you're doing this all so you could fetch a horse for the horse master or something like that. It's just a very tedious, mind-numbing game, and the game doesn't even give you the option to skip these side quests. It has a built-in mechanic that forces you to grind and grind for hours doing these horrible MMO type side quests. So yeah, as much as I do actually like certain aspects of this game, the main story, nothing to write home about, but it is pretty good, pretty solid build variety, a good cast of companions on your side, but overall the game just shoots itself in the foot with all this horrible MMO content. So yeah, why did this game win Game of the Year? And then next up we have The Witcher 3, and instantly this goes into the Hall of Fame. The Witcher 3 is a goated video game. Do I even need to explain this? Some of the best art direction and world building that you will find in any video game. It definitely does have its issues, don't get me wrong. The combat is incredibly janky, to say the least. Well, actually, I wouldn't necessarily say it's incredibly janky. Like, it's still fine, it's playable, but it just doesn't hold a candle to a lot of other similar type of games. Like, if you compare this to the Souls games, for example, which have fairly similar combat, The Witcher 3 does not even come close to that in terms of the gameplay mechanics, the enemy design, all of that stuff. But with all that being said, The Witcher 3 just makes up for it with every single creative aspect of the game. Like, The Witcher 3 is kind of a hard game to rate because a lot of the gameplay mechanics are really not that well designed. Like I was saying, combat is not great, but also it has a lot of weird quality of life issues, like the very weird inventory management that is just a total pain in the ass. The fact that you're constantly required to travel across the map to go to blacksmiths just to repair your weapons, otherwise they'll break in the middle of combat. Extremely janky horse, like weird level gating where you can be like a level 10 monster slayer, but then if you go to the next town, which is a level 12 town, all of a sudden some random bandit is able to one-shot you, even though you just finished killing an arch griffin. Like, that kind of thing is a little goofy, but I mean, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day because The Witcher 3 is insanely immersive. It's just one of those games where you kind of have to warm up to a little bit and get used to the jank of it. But once you are immersed in the world, immersed in the characters and the storytelling and all the quests, like, this game just sucks you in and gets you addicted to it. It is an absolutely breathtaking visual treat of a game. And that's mainly because of the art direction. This game, came out in like 2014 or 2015 or something like that. And it still looks amazing. simply because of all of the creativity that went into designing this amazing world. And on top of that, I would also add that Novigrad, which is one of the main cities in the game, one of the coolest, most well-designed city maps in any single video game. CDPR is so good at that. Like Cyberpunk 2077, obviously Night City, one of the most well-designed cities in any video game. And I'm not talking about like the interactivity and all that stuff. Like, yeah, Rockstar, definitely better when it comes to interactivity. But if we're just talking purely aesthetics and level design, of like an open world city, CDPR are the kings of that. And yeah, you can clearly see that in Novigrad in The Witcher 3. And of course, the DLCs in this game are absolutely incredible. Hearts of Stone is my personal favorite just because I love the story and I love the villain. But then, what's it called? Blood and Wine. It's basically an entire game in and of itself. And it's like one of the best DLCs of all time. So yeah, Witcher 3 easily goes into the Hall of Fame tier. And then next up, we have Overwatch. And I'm just going to be honest, I'm an RPG guy. I'm a single player guy. I like multiplayer games, but here's the thing with multiplayer games. In my opinion, they're all kind of fun if you're playing it with your friends, and they're all kind of boring if you're just playing it by yourself. So yeah, Overwatch is a very well-designed multiplayer game and obviously extremely influential. I'm pretty sure this was the game that single-handedly popularized the hero shooter genre. It was very well balanced, had a lot of great characters that you could play as, and they all felt unique, some pretty cool maps, pretty cool game modes. But yeah, at the end of the day, I could pretty much play like any at least decent multiplayer game with my buddies and I'll have just as good of a time, because I don't know, maybe it's different for other people. Some people are super into like esports and competitive. That's not me, and maybe it's just because I suck at these games, but I don't know. The fun of a multiplayer game is just having something to kind of do in the background while you're just chatting with your buddies. So I don't know, I could play pretty much any game and get that same quality of experience. Overwatch doesn't offer anything special for me personally. And again, this tier list is 100% biased. I'm not pretending to be objective here. So if you disagree with my rankings, then you should get mad, because I am the god of video gaming. Even though I mostly talk about movies, I am the lord of video games. So even though I'm completely biased, if I disagree with you, that means that you disagree with the ultimate authority on video games. So anyway, I am going to put Overwatch in the good game tier just because it was a lot of fun at the time. It's a very well-designed game that I do respect. But I mean, yeah, I'm not going to put it any higher than that because I don't know, like for all the reasons I just said. And then next up, we have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And I really wished I could get a time machine and play this game back when it first came out, because I'm sure I would have had my mind blown with it. But here's the problem. I made the mistake of playing Breath of the Wild after playing Tears of the Kingdom. And Tears of the Kingdom is basically Breath of the Wild, but just the upgraded, better version of it. So yeah, you can't really go back to Breath of the Wild after you just played Tears of the Kingdom. This is on me, okay? I completely ruined this game for myself. I didn't play it at the time. So unfortunately for me, because I don't have access to a time machine to really appreciate this game for what it was at the time, I can only put this into the solid GOTY tier. I respect the hell out of Breath of the Wild. I understand how visually beautiful the art direction is and how innovative this game was, but at the end of the day, this game crawled so that Tears of the Kingdom could walk, or better yet, fly. Tears of the Kingdom is an amazing game. I had so much fun playing it, but yeah, it just kind of ruined Breath of the Wild for me. So sorry, Zelda fans, but I can only put this into the solid GOTY tier. And then next up, we have God of War 2018. And I have heard a lot of the OG God of War fans who used to play the PS2 games back in the day, they don't really like God of War 2018 that much. At least some of them don't, for a number of reasons, mainly just that they kind of completely changed the formula and went in a new direction. But I never played the OG God of War games. This was my introduction to the series, and I absolutely loved it. I think God of War 2018 is pure cinema. It has, I mean, pretty much, I'm going to sound like a broken record because pretty much all of these games have amazing art direction. They won Game of the Year for a reason. But yeah, God of War 2018 is no exception. The art direction is absolutely insane in this game. I love what they did with the whole Norse mythology setting. It's such a visually beautiful game, but probably the biggest appeal of this game is the storytelling, especially with Kratos and Atreus, like such great characters. And it would be very easy for a game like this to have like an 8-year-old sidekick kind of character like Atreus just start to become extremely annoying, but somehow Atreus is not annoying at all. And obviously Kratos is the cooler character. Like, yeah, I would way rather play as Atreus. Part of why I like this game better than Ragnarok is you don't have to play as Atreus for like hour, 2-hour sessions at a time. This game is super tight, great storytelling, visually beautiful. Yeah, I mean, it has its issues, okay? The combat starts to get repetitive and stuff like that. The boss lineup is not the greatest boss lineup ever. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some really cool bosses in this game, but yeah, I mean, it definitely does have its issues here and there, but I would still put this into the legendary category. It's pure cinema. God of War 2018 is such a great game. Oh, and by the way, I know there was some controversy where a lot of people wanted Red Dead Redemption 2 to win Game of the Year, and if I'm just trying to be unbiased for a second here, yeah, Red Dead Redemption 2 is a more impressive game than God of War on a technical game design level, and honestly, even the storytelling is probably a bit better, but I just like God of War better personally. If I'm being honest, I am not the biggest Red Dead Redemption 2 fan. Oh my god. Yeah, I know that Red Dead Redemption 2 is considered by many to be the holy grail of video games. I mean, I get why people love it so much, but yeah, I just hate the combat in that game and the mission structure in that game. It just starts to get old. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2 is still a great game, don't get me wrong, but I like God of War better. Sue me. And then next up is Sekiro. Haven't played it. I probably should play it because I love FromSoft. I love the Souls games, but I kind of suck at them. Like the only FromSoft games that I was actually able to beat like from start to finish was Dark Souls 1 and Elden Ring. I tried Bloodborne, got very far in the game, gave up at a certain point, and that was also partially because I was in engineering school at the time and like I was pretty like stressed out about engineering shit. You know, Bloodborne just had to take the back seat there. So I don't know, maybe I'll replay it, try it again. But anyway, Dark Souls 3, couldn't beat it. Sekiro, I'm very intimidated by it. I don't think I would probably be able to beat it because I just kind of suck at like Souls games. I love them, but I suck at them. But yeah, from what I hear, a lot of people say Sekiro is actually the best Souls game. I am inclined to believe you because it looks awesome, but yeah, I'm just, I'm too intimidated to play it. Maybe I should finally like grow a pair and just try it out. But yeah, as for right now, I haven't played it, so I can't rank it. And then next up is The Last of Us Part 2, the most controversial game of all time. I really wish that I could weigh in on the controversy here because I love hot takes. I love saying controversial shit. Sometimes people get a little bit mad at me. That's fine. But yeah, I haven't played The Last of Us Part 2. I haven't even played The Last of Us Part 1 either. I don't know. Everyone says that The Last of Us Part 1 is Part 1, just The Last of Us is one of the greatest games of all time. Yeah, I'm sure it's great. It's just not the type of game that I would usually want to play. I'm not super into zombies. I'm more of like an RPG person, a very linear action game. I will make an exception for like God of War because that game was just so awesome. But yeah, I'm just not into zombies. I already watched the TV show anyway, so I mean, yeah, I probably should play The Last of Us because everyone says it's amazing, but it's just not the type of game I'd want to play. And from what I hear, The Last of Us Part 2 is a huge downgrade compared to the first one. So yeah, I don't know. I'm probably never going to play Last of Us Part 2. So I don't have any opinion on the controversy there. Sorry. And then It Takes Two. Haven't played it either. And then we have Elden Ring. One of my favorite games of all time. I mean, yeah, everyone and their mother loves Elden Ring. Like I said at the beginning, I'm a basic gamer, bro. I don't have very unique takes when it comes to gaming. Elden Ring, yeah, that's easily in the Hall of Fame. And in fact, I'm going to put that above The Witcher 3. The Elden Ring is a game where I pretty much straight up had a religious experience playing this game. I absolutely love it. I know some people have issues with it. The main criticisms I hear people talking about is like some of the boss balancing, but I don't know. I'm a little bitch who uses summons, so I never had any issue with it. See, I don't really play these games for the difficulty. I love the art direction of Souls games. I love the atmosphere and the vibe, and I love the exploration. I don't really give a damn about the difficulty. In fact, that's actually one of the things I kind of like makes me not play these games as much as I would otherwise. I'm not saying they should have an easy mode. Don't worry to put down your pitchforks, but I love Elden Ring. I'm a bitch. I use summons. I pretty much use like the most OP build you could possibly do. Like I just went around and min-maxed all the bosses before fighting the main bosses. Like that didn't even make sense, min-maxing the bosses. You know what I mean though? Like I went around and cleared the map before fighting the hard bosses. I used summons, I used mimic tier. I played it like a little pansy, but I had so much fun playing it. The only boss that I wasn't able to beat was the very final boss of the DLC. I'm not going to spoil who it was. I know a lot of people struggled with that boss. I don't know how anyone beat that. I used summons, I used like the whatever you call it, like where you summon up your allies. So like I used the mimic tier and the 2 summons, like NPC summons that you get from the main quest in the DLC, and I was still just getting my ass kicked by the unnamed final boss who I won't spoil. But yeah, other than that, like I just had such a great time with Elden Ring. Every boss, they were so cool. Like, and yeah, Elden Ring is probably my favorite Souls game. I don't know, I would say maybe Dark Souls 1, just because that's what introduced me to the Souls series, and I absolutely love Dark Souls 1. But yeah, Elden Ring is just, in my opinion, I mean, it's not even really my opinion, like I'm sure a million people have said that, but like all of the stuff that FromSoft learned from all of their other games, they finally mastered their art. I mean, they already had pretty much mastered it, but Elden Ring was when they really took it to the next level. I fucking love Elden Ring, one of the best GOTYs of all time, easily in the Hall of Fame tier. And then next up, we have Baldur's Gate 3. Do I even need to say anything here? This is not only in the Hall of Fame, this is the top of the Hall of Fame. What the fuck? In fact, I'm going to add another tier, and this is going to be the GOAT tier. And this is where Baldur's Gate 3 goes. This is my favorite game of all time. The first time I played this game, I was like, okay, yeah, this is easily in the Hall of Fame. I don't know what color to do. I'm just going to do gray because I'm boring. Okay, yeah, I don't know. When I first played Baldur's Gate 3, I was like, yeah, this game is amazing, 10 out of 10, easy GOTY. I wouldn't have put it in like above even the Hall of Fame tier though. I wasn't on that level. Okay, this gray, it looks horrible. I'm not going to do that. I don't know. I'm just going to do the light gray. Fuck it. Same color as haven't played. I don't even know. It's so good that I really, well, maybe I haven't really fully played it, because Baldur's Gate 3 is one of those games where like every single time you play it, you just discover new things. I've beaten the game 3 times by now. The first time I played it, I was like 10 out of 10 GOTY. I love this game, but it, you know, it had some issues here and there, like especially Act 3. Things kind of, I mean, Act 1, easy 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Act 2, close to a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. Act 3, I was like, okay, it kind of fell off a little bit, but still like 9 out of 10 at worst. But then the second time I played it, I played as a Dark Urge, and I was like blown away by how different the experience was, and also how like the story was actually kind of better as a Dark Urge than as a regular custom character. And then that moved it up. I was like, okay, I don't even care if this game has a few issues here and there. It's like the ultimate video game. And then I played it again for the 3rd time. This time I did Dark Urge Resist, where you play as like a good Dark Urge, where you resist the urge. And that was even better than the regular Dark Urge. Like, this game is absolutely amazing. Every time I've played it, it's even gone better than the last time. And that's like very rare. Most video games, the first time you play it is going to be the best time. Then you replay it and it's still fun, but it loses a little bit of the magic. I don't know, maybe this is just me, but Baldur's Gate 3 has just gotten better and better with each playthrough. I'm probably going to even play it again at some point, because this game is so addicting. I love Baldur's Gate 3, and I don't even really play a lot of turn-based combat games, but the combat in Baldur's Gate 3 is so much fun. Like, and I'm sure there's some like hardcore CRPG people are like, actually, the turn-based combat in Baldur's Gate 3 is lackluster compared to Pathfinder. Like, okay, I don't play a lot of CRPG games. Baldur's Gate 3, like, the combat was so much fun. And like, I shouldn't say I don't play like any CRPG games. Like, I played Disco Elysium at least, which that game should have won Game of the Year. I don't know what year that was, but Disco Elysium should have won Game of the Year. It should be on this list. That would be in the Hall of Fame as well. But anyway, Baldur's Gate 3, and another thing I love about it so much is that even though it is like a hardcore CRPG with like super in-depth mechanics and an insane amount of like choices and consequences and all that, the production value of the game is like just as good as any of these other games. Like, it has full-on cutscenes like in any like AAA action game, except it's also like a hardcore CRPG. Like, there's no other game that offers that level of production value, but also that insane CRPG mechanics. And like, also, the game is just oozing with charm. Like, you could say what you will about the writing. I mean, the writing is really good in Baldur's Gate 3, don't get me wrong. but it's probably not like the best writing of any game. Like I would say Witcher 3 probably has better writing than Baldur's Gate 3. Also probably a little bit better art direction, but Baldur's Gate 3 just has so much charm to it. I love all the characters. I love like the little moments. Like it's just such a great game. It's the GOAT in my opinion. And then next up we have the recent Game of the Year winner, Astro Bot. Now I have not checked to see the reaction to this game winning Game of the Year. Knowing gamers and how gamers love to just get angry over the littlest things, I'm sure there's people who are outraged that Astro Bot won Game of the Year, but I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for Astro Bot. I fucking love Astro Bot. This is easily, I'm gonna put it in the legendary tier. I'm actually even gonna put it above God of War. I don't even play a lot of like platformers or 3D platformers. I'm not super familiar with the genre, although I did used to play a lot of them as a kid. Like Astro Bot absolutely blew my mind. The game is so much fun. The feedback you get on the controller, the haptic feedback, I think it's called. I have no idea if that's the correct terminology, but you know what I mean. Anyone who's played the game knows what I'm talking about. The way that they use the feedback in the controller is unreal. There's no other game that compares to it, and the game is just so fun and well designed. Like every single level in this game is immaculately designed. It's so much fun. I love the little powers that you get. Like pretty much every level has its own unique power that you get, and the level design is so different with each level because it's all accommodating a very specific power that you get, and you never get sick of any of the specific power-ups because they're all just so different and so unique, and the level design is so perfectly adapted to each unique ability or power that you get. Yeah, Astro Bot is just so great, and of course, like with Baldur's Gate 3, the game is just so charming. It has so much charm to it. Like, I love the music so much. The only thing I would really even say against Astro Bot, and it's not really that big of an issue, it does kind of lean on like the nostalgia bait a little bit. Like a lot of like the classic PS2 characters kind of appear in this game. There's a lot of cameos and stuff, but like, and the game kind of as a whole is like, I mean, like, I know everyone has said this, but it's like an advertisement for the PS5. Like, it has a little bit too much of the PlayStation stuff in it, but like, I can forgive it because every other aspect of this game is so perfect. And honestly, like the nostalgia stuff, I'm sure a lot of people actually love that about the game. I'm just not really a nostalgia bait person. Like when it comes to movies, for example, like any movie that just relies on like fan service and nostalgia bait, it always makes me roll my eyes. And so I don't know, Astro Bot should have done that, but like the rest of the game was just so good that I let that slide. I think Astro Bot is just a perfect game, to be honest. Well-deserved Game of the Year. I'm sure a lot of people were rooting for, I don't know, Black Myth Wukong. I didn't play Black Myth Wukong, so I don't know, maybe that deserved Game of the Year. I didn't play it, so I have no opinion, but I was rooting for Astro Bot. I am glad that it won Game of the Year. Very well deserved. But yeah, anyway, that's my tier list for the Game of the Year winners. If you disagree with these rankings, then you can sue me and take me to court.